The Galactic Military Academy stood tall and proud on planet Saren, its crystal spires reaching toward the 3 moons above. Inside one of its many classrooms, 30 young alien students from different species sat at their desks, their eyes fixed on Professor Galactic. The old professor, with his blue scales and 4 arms, moved smoothly across the front of the room. Today's lesson was about warfare capabilities of different species across the galaxy. His long tail swished back and forth as he spoke. And that, young ones, is why the Zentari are known for their powerful space cruisers, Professor Galactic said, switching off the hologram showing massive battleships. Any questions before we move to the next species? In the back row, a young student named Zax raised his hand. His green antenna twitched with curiosity. Professor, what about humans? I've never heard of them in our combat classes. The room went silent. Professor Galactic froze, his scales turning a pale blue, a sign of fear among his species. His 4 hands began trembling as he gripped his teaching staff tighter. That topic is not part of our curriculum, he said quickly, his voice shaking. Let's move on to the Krell Empire's battle tactics. But Vela, a purple-skinned student with silver eyes, spoke up. But Professor, I found something interesting in the library database yesterday. There was a locked file about humans, marked as restricted access. Why would it be restricted if they're not important? Professor Galactic dropped his teaching tablet. It clattered to the floor, making several students jump. As he bent to pick it up, his scales had turned almost white. Listen carefully, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Some knowledge in this galaxy is restricted for your own safety. Some species are banned from warfare for good reasons. That's all you need to know. The professor's unusual behavior made the whole class lean forward in their seats. They had never seen their confident teacher act so nervous before. But sir, Zax pressed on, how can a whole species be banned from warfare? That doesn't make sense. Professor Galactic slammed his hands on his desk, making everyone jump. Enough. This discussion is over. Anyone caught investigating restricted files about humans will be expelled immediately. Am I clear? The class nodded silently, but Zax and Vela exchanged knowing looks. They had been best friends since their first year at the academy, and they knew each other's thoughts without speaking. This mystery was too interesting to ignore. After class, as other students hurried to their next lessons, Zax and Vela stayed behind. Did you see how scared he looked? Vela whispered, her silver eyes shining with excitement. I've never seen a teacher react like that before. Zax nodded, his antennae twitching faster now. Something's not right. How can humans be so dangerous that we're not even allowed to learn about them? I have an idea, Vela said, looking around to make sure no one was listening. You know the restricted archives in the basement. My mother works in security here. I know her access codes. Zax's eyes widened. That's against so many rules, Vela. We could get expelled. But don't you want to know the truth? Vela asked. Think about it. An entire species so dangerous that just talking about them scares our teachers. There has to be an amazing story behind this. Zax thought for a moment. His parents had always taught him to follow rules, but his curiosity was too strong. Okay, he said finally. When do we do this? Tonight, Vela replied. The security guards change shifts at midnight. There's a 10-minute gap when nobody watches the basement entrance. That's our chance. That night, as 3 moons shone through the academy's windows, Zax and Vela snuck through the dark halls. Their hearts were beating fast as they made their way to the basement stairs. The restricted archives lay behind a heavy metal door with a glowing control panel. Vela's hands shook as she entered her mother's security code. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss, the door slid open. Inside, rows of data crystals glowed softly in the dark. Each crystal contained thousands of classified files. Vela moved quickly to a terminal and began searching. Here, she whispered excitedly. A file called Human Warfare Ban. Classified Level 10. That's the highest security level. Just as she was about to open it, they heard footsteps above. Someone was coming down the stairs. "Quick, hide," Zax whispered. But the file was already loading, and on the screen, they caught a glimpse of something that made their blood run cold, a picture of a human warrior. And beneath it, numbers that seemed impossible, casualty figures that made no sense, and a warning label stamped in red. Species 380 Leviel. Maximum. The footsteps were getting closer. What Zax and Vela had just discovered was only the beginning of a truth that would change their view of the galaxy forever. The footsteps grew louder, and Zax pulled Vela behind a tall shelf of data crystals. They held their breath as a security guard walked past, his light probe sweeping the dark corners of the archive room. "Just rats again," the guard muttered, his tail dragging on the floor. These old archives always make strange noises. Once the guard left, Vela rushed back to the terminal. Her fingers flew across the holographic keyboard, drilling deeper into the classified files. "Look at this," she whispered, pointing to a glowing screen. "First contact report. Earth, classified level 10. The screen flickered to life, showing an old recording. The image showed a massive alien ship hovering over a small blue planet. "Report from High Commander Draz." A voice spoke through the terminal. "We have discovered a new species on a planet they call Earth. They are primitive, using chemical rockets and radio waves. Laughable technology. We expect them to be easy to conquer." The recording crackled, then continued. "Day 7. Terrible mistake. Humans not primitive. Not primitive at all." Zax and Vela leaned closer as the screen showed battle footage. Their eyes widened in shock. A tiny human ship, no bigger than a cargo hauler, was facing off against a galactic dreadnought 10 times its size. "Impossible," Zax whispered. "That human ship, it's using the dreadnought's own gravity drive against it." The footage showed the small human vessel somehow redirecting the dreadnought's gravity field. The massive alien ship began to crumple like paper, its own weight crushing it. "They turned our strongest weapon against us in just days." The commander's voice shook. "They learn too fast. They adapt too quickly." New images flashed across the screen. Humans in simple spacesuits, fighting hand-to-hand with alien warriors twice their size. But it was the humans who were winning. "Look at their eyes," Vela gasped. "They're smiling. They're enjoying the battle." The terminal displayed combat statistics. First contact battle duration, 3 Earth days. Galactic forces lost 15 dreadnoughts. Human ships destroyed 2. Status: Galactic forces retreat. "This can't be right," Zax said, his antennae twitching wildly. "No species has ever forced a galactic fleet to retreat. Not in all our history." Suddenly, they found another file, marked Human Combat Analysis. The report read, "Humans possess several terrifying traits. They treat defeat as a temporary setback. They view overwhelming odds as a challenge. They use fear as motivation instead of running from it. They turn any tool into a weapon. Most horrifying, they share their combat knowledge freely among themselves." Just then, a new recording started playing. It showed a human captain standing on the bridge of his damaged ship. Behind him, fires raged, but he stood calmly. To the galactic forces, the human spoke in a quiet voice that somehow seemed more frightening than any shout. "You attacked our colonies. You thought we would surrender. Instead, we learned. We adapted. We survived. And now we will teach you why that was a mistake." The screen flashed to scenes of human ships appearing from nowhere, using tactics no one had seen before. They were turning mining lasers into weapons, using cargo ships as bombers, and somehow communicating faster than galactic signals could track. By the 3 moons, Vela breathed. They turned everything into a weapon, even their civilian ships. The last part of the recording showed something that made both young aliens step back in horror. A single human ship, badly damaged, its crew mostly dead, still fighting against an entire alien battle fleet. Why don't they surrender? Zax wondered aloud. Any other species would have given up. The answer came from another classified note. Humans do not understand the concept of impossible odds. They simply refuse to accept defeat. This makes them more dangerous than any species we have encountered in 10,000 years of space warfare. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the archive. Red lights flashed, and a security announcement echoed. Unauthorized access detected in restricted Section B. Security teams responding. Vela quickly copied some files to her data crystal. "We need to hide this somewhere safe," she said. "The truth about humans. It's bigger than we thought." As they ran from the archives, dodging between shelves, Zax glanced back at the terminal. The last image burned in his mind. A human ship, hopelessly outnumbered, transmitting a message that would become famous throughout the galaxy. "We haven't even started fighting yet." They barely made it out through a maintenance tunnel as security forces rushed in. Hidden in their dorm room later that night, Vela looked at the data crystal in her hand. "Zax," she said quietly, "I don't think humans were banned because they were evil. They were banned because they were too good at fighting, too good at surviving, too good at winning." "But there's something we're still missing," Zax replied, looking at the stars through their window. "These are just the first contact records. What happened next? What did humans do that was so terrible that even mentioning them is forbidden?" Vela inserted the data crystal into her private reader. "Let's find out. There's a file here about something called the Innovation Terror, and Zax, it's worse than anything we've seen so far." The data crystal glowed in the darkroom, ready to reveal more terrifying truths about the most dangerous species in the galaxy. 3 days had passed since their discovery in the archives. Zax and Vela met in the Academy's forgotten greenhouse, where ancient alien plants provided cover from prying eyes. The data crystal glowed between them as they activated the file labeled the Innovation Terror. Security scan complete. The crystal hummed. Warning. Contents classified as psychologically disturbing. The first image materialized. A simple human mining ship. Nothing special. Until the recording showed what happened next. Initial encounter with human mining vessel Deep Rock 9. An alien commander's voice reported. "We demanded surrender. They responded by doing something impossible." The footage showed the mining ship's laser drill, designed to cut asteroids, suddenly splitting into 5 beams. The humans had modified it within minutes of the battle starting. The alien warship's shields, designed to stop military weapons, couldn't recognize the modified mining tool as a threat until it was too late. "They turned everything into a weapon," Vela whispered, her silver eyes wide. "Absolutely everything." The next file opened automatically. Human Innovation Speed Analysis. A chart appeared, showing weapon development times. Zentari Empire, 300 years to develop plasma cannons. Krell Dominion, 150 years for shield penetration. Humans, 3 weeks to reverse engineer and improve both. This is why they're so feared, Zax realized, his antennae trembling. Other species follow rules of weapon development. Humans just innovate. The next recording showed something even more terrifying. Human cargo ships were using their freight containers as armor, their loading mechanisms as missile launchers. Civilian vessels fought alongside military ones, each improvising new weapons from whatever they had. Most disturbing human innovation traits, read a classified report. They share all combat discoveries instantly across their fleet. View every defeat as a learning opportunity. Consider impossible a temporary obstacle. Transform peaceful technology into weapons within hours. Improve upon captured enemy technology beyond its original capabilities. Suddenly, a new file unlocked itself, marked Incident 471B, the Coffee Maker Massacre. "What's a coffee maker?" Vela asked. The file explained. Humans require a stimulant drink called coffee to function optimally. When an alien force destroyed their coffee makers during a space station raid, the humans, both students gasped at what they read next. The humans had turned their broken coffee makers into improvised plasma bombs, using the heating elements and pressure chambers in ways no engineer had thought possible. An entire alien assault fleet, defeated by modified drink dispensers. Note: the file continued. Humans become especially innovative when angered. Destroying their coffee supplies is now classified as a suicidal tactical error. The next section showed human ships that had survived massive battles. The images were horrifying. Vessels cut in half, still fighting. Ships with their weapons destroyed, ramming enemy vessels instead. Crews adapting and improvising, even as their ships fell apart around them. Subject: human repair capabilities. A new file began. Most disturbing observation: humans can repair and modify their ships during combat. No other known species attempts this, as it is considered impossible. The recording showed a human battleship, heavily damaged, its crew sealing hull breaches with emergency patches while still firing at the enemy. They were rewiring systems, bypassing damaged components, and improvising repairs that should have taken weeks in a space dock. "They don't understand the word impossible," Zax muttered. "They just keep going." A final clip began playing. A human engineer being interrogated after capture. "How do you keep fighting with such damaged ships?" the alien interrogator asked. The human smiled. "Duct tape." "What weapon is this duct tape?" the interrogator demanded. The human laughed. "It's not a weapon." "Well, not usually, unless we need it to be." Suddenly, the data crystal flickered with a warning. Someone was accessing the archive records, tracking who had viewed these files. "We need to move," Vela said quickly, but then she noticed one last file downloading. The uprising incident. The brief text they saw before shutting down the crystal made their blood freeze. After learning our technology, humans didn't just match it. They revolutionized it. Each human innovation spawned 10 more. Their rate of advancement became exponential. And then they started teaching other species their methods. Running through the greenhouse, dodging between phosphorescent plants, Zax and Vela heard voices approaching. Security was getting closer. The innovation terror wasn't just about weapons, was it? Zax whispered as they hid behind giant glowing fungi. It was about humans teaching others to think like them. Vela clutched the crystal. "We need to find out what happened next. The uprising incident. It must be when everything changed." As Academy guards passed nearby, Vela noticed something odd about their scanning equipment. "Zax," she whispered, "look at the design of those scanners." "That's not Galactic technology." Zax's eyes widened. "It's human design, isn't it? Even after the ban, we're still using their innovations." A message flashed on Vela's personal device. "Securityalert. All students return to dormitories immediately. Contraband inspection in progress." They had to move fast, but one thing was clear. The next part of the story would reveal why humans weren't just banned from warfare, but from sharing their knowledge with the galaxy. As they snuck back to their rooms, a final thought haunted them. If humans were this innovative centuries ago, what had they become since then? The data crystal pulsed once more before going dark, showing a last fragment of text. Final warning. Human innovation rate continues to increase. If not contained, they will surpass all known technological limits within. The Academy was on high alert. Security drones patrolled the halls, scanning for unauthorized data crystals. But Zax and Vela had been clever. They'd hidden their crystal inside a broken cleaning robot in the maintenance bay. Late that night, when even the 3 moons were hiding behind clouds, they recovered the crystal and found an abandoned science lab to continue their research. "Security systems bypassed," Vela whispered, connecting the crystal to an isolated terminal. Opening new file. Human survival analysis. Warning. Graphic content. The screen lit up with a battle recording that made them both freeze. A human ship, that HSS Endurance, was surrounded by 7 alien dreadnoughts. Its hull was breached in multiple places. Life support was failing. By all logical standards, its crew should have been dead or surrendered. Instead, they saw something impossible. Medical report. A shocked alien doctor's voice narrated. Human crew continued fighting with injuries that would kill any other species. Subject A continued manning weapons with 3 broken limbs. Subject B sealed hull breach with their own body while waiting for repair crew. Subject C performed engine repairs while exposed to radiation levels we thought instantly fatal. How? Zax wondered aloud. How do they keep going? The next file answered his question. Human survival characteristics. Pain tolerance exceeds all known species. Can remain conscious despite massive blood loss. Enter survival mode when severely injured. Combat effectiveness NC or IEAZ is when mortally wounded. Can function without sleep for days. Will sacrifice individual survival for group success. A new recording started playing. It showed a human warship, severely damaged, its captain barely alive. The alien commander was offering them a chance to surrender. The human captain's response chilled them. You're right. We can't win. But we can make sure you lose. What happened next defied explanation. The dying human ship charged straight into the alien fleet's formation. But instead of just exploding, they somehow turned their failing reactor into a weapon that disabled every enemy ship's shield system. Note: the file read, humans become most dangerous when victory is impossible. They shift focus from survival to ensuring enemy defeat. The screen flickered to a new section, psychological analysis of human crew member. An alien psychologist appeared, looking disturbed. Subject displays concerning traits. When asked about certain death scenarios, they laugh. They call it going out with a bang. They view death in battle as acceptable if it achieves mission goals. The next file showed something even more terrifying. A single human in a damaged spacesuit, floating in debris. The suit's oxygen was almost gone. Any other species would have accepted death. Instead, the human used their own blood to write calculations on the inside of their helmet, figured out how to use the suit's failing thrusters to reach a nearby wreck, and survived by sealing themselves in a frozen cargo container until rescue arrived 3 days later. Most disturbing observation, the file noted. Humans do not understand the concept of acceptable losses. They will risk everything to save even one crew member. Suddenly, they found a heavily encrypted file. The last stand of Sarah Chen. The footage showed a human female, alone on a space station about to explode. She could have escaped. Instead, she stayed to manually operate the station's defense systems, protecting a refugee fleet below. "Tell Earth," she said calmly while typing with burned hands. "Tell them I kept my promise. No one dies on my watch." The station exploded, but her actions had saved thousands. The file noted. Subject displayed typical human disregard for self-preservation when others were in danger. A new section appeared. Warning: human survival rate statistics. Expected survival rate in no-win scenarios, 0%. Actual human survival rate, 38%. Missions completed despite fatal injuries, 63%. Success rate when declared impossible, 27%. "These numbers don't make sense," Vela said, her silver eyes wide. "They're achieving things that are statistically impossible." The next file showed a bizarre incident. A human ship, lost in deep space with no fuel, somehow modified their coffee machine to produce emergency thrust. They survived by using food waste as makeshift reactor material. Engineering note. The file read, humans can create survival solutions that our top scientists classify as absurd yet functional. Suddenly, their terminal detected an incoming security sweep, but before they closed the connection, one last file opened. Final report on human combat psychology. Most terrifying conclusion. Humans do not fight harder when facing death. They fight harder when protecting others. A human facing death is dangerous. A human protecting their friends is unstoppable. As they quickly disconnected the crystal, alarms began blaring throughout the academy. But this time, they were different. Not security alarms, but emergency alerts. Attention all studentes, the announcement boomed. Return to emergency. It is yours IMMEDITLI. This is not a drill. Through the laboratory window, they saw massive ships appearing in the sky. Ships unlike anything in the Galactic fleet. Ships that brought back memories of the classified files they'd just seen. Zax, Vela whispered, clutching the data crystal. Those ships, they're using hybrid technology. Part galactic, part something else. Something more advanced. Something human. Zax suggested, his antennae trembling. Before they could discuss it further, Professor Galactic burst into the lab, his scales pale with fear. Everyone to the shelters. They're here. The Devourers have found us. As they ran for safety, Vela and Zax exchanged knowing looks. The Devourers, the most feared species in the current galaxy. No one had ever defeated them. But maybe, just maybe, they knew of someone who could. The data crystal pulsed one final time, revealing a fragment of text they hadn't seen before. Final warning. If the Devourers ever reach our space, only one species has the survival instinct to face them. The same species we feared. The same species we banned. The humans. The crystal went dark as emergency lights flooded the hallways. The real test of survival was about to begin. The emergency shelters beneath the academy rumbled as something massive struck the planet's defense shields. Hundreds of students huddled in the dim light, but Zax and Vela found a quiet corner near an old maintenance panel. The shields won't hold against the Devourers, Vela whispered, carefully connecting their data crystal to her hidden terminal. We need to know what happened. Why we banned the only species that might help us. The crystal hummed to life, opening a file marked The Breaking Point. Final battle analysis. The screen showed a massive space battle unlike anything they'd studied in class. Human ships were surrounded by the combined fleets of 17 alien species. The humans were outnumbered 100 to 1. Operation. Containment. An alien admiral's voice reported. Goal. Force human surrender before they advance further. Fatal error. We made them angry. The footage showed human ships taking devastating hits, but instead of dying, they were changing. Each destroyed system was being replaced with something new, something improvised. Most terrifying moment. The report continued. Humans started laughing when we destroyed their main weapons. The screen shifted to a human admiral's transmission. Thanks for the combat data. Now let us show you what we learned. What happened next made both students gasp. The human ships began using the debris from their own destroyed vessels as weapons. They created a field of artificial gravity anomalies, turning space itself into a trap. They weaponized their own deaths. Zax whispered in horror. A new file opened. Human Combat Evolution. Final stage. The report showed how humans had studied every defeat, every loss, every death. But instead of being demoralized, they had turned each failure into a new weapon, a new tactic, a new way to fight. Critical discovery. Flashed a warning. Humans do not follow normal military evolution. Example scenarios. Destroy their ships. They turn the wreckage into minefields. Disable their weapons. They turn their entire ship into a weapon. Cut off their supplies. They learn to eat their enemy's food. Jam their communications. They develop new languages mid-battle. Trap them. They dig tunnels. Gas them. They hold their breath longer. Corner them. They tear through walls. Wound them. They cauterize wounds with burning debris. And keep fighting. Suddenly, they found a personal log from a human soldier. They think they're wearing us down. They don't understand. Each hit makes us stronger. Each death teaches us. We're not just fighting anymore. We're evolving. The next section showed the moment everything changed. The humans, cornered and seemingly defeated, activated something called Protocol Omega. Warning, an alien sensor operator reported, voice shaking. Human brain activity is changing. They're somehow linking their minds through their ship's computers. Their thinking is one. The screen showed human ships moving in impossible patterns, as if all crews were sharing a single consciousness. They had turned their neural interfaces, designed for simple ship control, into a combat hive mind. They weren't just adapting their ships, Vela realized. They were adapting themselves. A classified note appeared. Humans have achieved what we thought impossible, forced evolution through sheer willpower. Then came the moment that changed galactic history. A human ship, nearly destroyed, sent out a final transmission, initiating legacy protocol. The ship's reactor didn't just explode, it ripped a hole in space-time itself. The humans had somehow turned their own deaths into weapons that violated the laws of physics. Final analysis. The report read, humans must be banned from warfare not because they are evil, but because they are too good at it. They don't just fight. They transform. And most dangerous of all, they teach others to do the same. A hidden file suddenly unlocked. The real reason. Ultimate conclusion. If humans continue to fight, they will not just win. They will change the very nature of warfare. They will teach other species to evolve as they do. The galaxy will never know peace again. The screen flashed with one last transmission from the human admiral before the ban. You think banning us will keep the galaxy safe? We're not the threat. We're the immune system. And one day, you'll need us again. Suddenly, the shelter shook violently. Above them, they heard the planetary shields cracking. Emergency alert, the Academy AI announced. Devourer forces have breached outer defenses. All remaining ships prepare for final defense. Vela looked at Zax, her silver eyes reflecting the emergency lights. The humans were right. We need them now. But the last file they found changed everything. It wasn't about the ban at all. It was a secret message, hidden in the Academy's systems for centuries. To whoever finds this, we knew you'd ban us. We knew you'd fear us. But we also knew that one day, something worse would come. The Devourers aren't your end. They're your wake-up call. Check coordinates 227.885994. We never went far. We never stopped preparing. We never stopped protecting. When you're ready to understand why we fight the way we do, come find us. Human Defense Force, final transmission. The shelter rocked with another explosion. But now Vela and Zax knew. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Through the shelter's small window, they saw a Devourer ship falling from the sky, struck by something they couldn't see. And in the darkness of space, small lights were appearing. Ships of unknown design, moving in ways that defied normal space combat. The data crystal displayed one final message. Human combat philosophy. The best defense isn't a strong shield. It's making sure that whatever breaks through that shield regrets it forever. The battle for survival was about to begin again. But this time, humanity wouldn't fight alone. The Academy's shelter systems were failing one by one. Through the reinforced windows, Zax and Vela watched Devourer ships tear through their planet's last defense lines like paper. The massive black vessels seemed to absorb energy weapons, growing stronger with each hit. Those coordinates, Vela said, frantically working on her terminal. 227.885994. It's not a location. It's a frequency. Professor Gylax appeared behind them, his scales now almost white with fear. What are you two doing? Those are forbidden frequencies. Professor, Zax turned to face him, antennae rigid with determination. We know about the humans. We know why they were banned. And we know they're still out there. The old professor froze. For a moment, Only the sound of distant explosions filled the shelter. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. Finally, he whispered, "Someone found it." He pulled out an ancient device from beneath his robes. "I've been waiting 50 years for someone to discover the truth." The device hummed to life, displaying a message that made their hearts stop. Human Defense Network status. Active. Monitoring. 47,283 galactic sectors. Threat level. Maximum. Devourer containment. Failed. Protocol Phoenix. Untold. We never banned them, the professor explained as another explosion rocked the shelter. They banned themselves, because they knew this day would come. The terminal crackled with new data from their crystal. Human strategic analysis. Year 2157. Prediction. A species worse than us will emerge. Solution. Become the galaxy's hidden guardians. Method. Self-imposed exile while maintaining watch. Status. Preparing for inevitable confrontation. Suddenly, their screens lit up with live footage from the battle above. The Devourer ships were unstoppable, absorbing or reflecting every weapon the Galactic Defense Force had. Standard tactics ineffective. An alien commander reported. Shields useless. Weapons absorbed. Fleet casualties at 78% and rising. The Devourers are adapting to everything The transmission cut off. But then something strange happened. The Devourer ships started exploding, hit by weapons they couldn't see. "Look," Vela pointed at her screen. "Those energy signatures, they're impossible." The footage showed invisible ships moving in ways that violated physics. Where Devourer vessels absorbed normal weapons, these new attacks seemed to bypass their defenses completely. Professor Xylax's device displayed new data. Human combat evolution. Phase 2. Developed weapons that bypass space-time. Created ships that exist in multiple dimensions. Perfected predictive combat algorithms. Achieved weaponized quantum entanglement. Note: we didn't stop advancing. We just stopped showing it. A new transmission cut through all frequencies. "This is Admiral Chen, Human Defense Force. Yes, we're still here. Yes, we've been watching. And no, we're not alone anymore." The screen showed something incredible. Ships were appearing from nowhere, but they weren't just human vessels. They were crewed by dozens of species, all those who had discovered the truth over the centuries and joined humanity in secret. "Did you think we spent these years idle?" Admiral Chen's voice continued. "We've been teaching, learning, preparing. Every species that found us brought new ideas, new ways of thinking. We didn't just evolve our weapons, we evolved our understanding." The Devourer ships were now in chaos. They couldn't adapt to weapons they couldn't understand, couldn't absorb energy that didn't exist in normal space. A classified file automatically opened on their terminal. Human-led innovation program. Combined Zentari crystal tech with human quantum theory. Merged Krell bioengineering with human neural networks. Integrated 200-plus species unique abilities. Result: created defenses the Devourers cannot comprehend. But the Devourers had one last trick. Their ships combined, forming a massive structure that began tearing reality itself. "They're creating a dimensional rift," someone shouted over the general frequency. "They're trying to bring their entire fleet through." That's when they saw it. A small human ship, no bigger than a courier vessel, flying straight toward the rift. Its transmission was short. "Remember Sarah Chen. We all made the same promise. No one dies on our watch." The ship vanished into the rift. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to scream. Professor Xylax's device displayed. Protocol Phoenix activated. Phase 1. Dimensional anchor established. Phase 2. Quantum lockdown initiated. Phase 3. Reality reinforcement engage. Note: we didn't just learn to break physics. We learned to fix it. The rift collapsed, taking most of the Devourer fleet with it. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but the formerly invisible human fleet fully revealed itself. "My God," Vela whispered, looking at the designs. "They're using technology from every species, not just copying, improving, combining, evolving." Admiral Chen's final transmission echoed through the shelter. "To all galactic species, the time for hiding is over. We stayed away not because we were banned, but because we needed time. Time to grow beyond just warfare. Time to learn how to protect without destroying. Time to understand that the strongest defense isn't what you can build, it's what you can teach others to become." As the battle ended, their data crystal revealed one last file. Project Phoenix. Final phase. Goal: unite the galaxy not through fear of humanity, but through shared evolution. Status: beginning. Note: the real war isn't against the Devourers. It's against the idea that any species must face threats alone. The shelter doors opened, revealing a changed sky, and in orbit above them, ships of every species in the galaxy were appearing, answering humanity's call. The time of hiding was over. The time of unity had begun. But in the darkness between stars, something was stirring, something that made even the Devourers flee, and humanity's greatest test was still to come. The Academy's Great Hall, once filled with routine lectures, now hosted representatives from every known species in the galaxy. Zax and Vela sat in the front row, their data crystal now officially recognized as the key that changed everything. Admiral Chen stood on the stage, her hologram flickering slightly. She was simultaneously commanding the human fleet across 12 dimensions, something that should have been impossible. "You didn't ban us," she began, her voice carrying centuries of waiting. "We banned ourselves, because we saw something in that final battle that terrified us more than any enemy." The hall's holographic display activated, showing the true history that had been hidden for centuries. Human final battle analysis. Complete truth. We weren't fighting to win. We were fighting to understand. Every defeat taught us. Every death showed us. Every loss revealed the pattern. The Admiral's eyes grew dark. "We discovered that warfare follows universal mathematics. Combat evolution is predictable. And we calculated something horrifying. The final form of conflict. New images appeared, showing complex equations that merged biology, physics, and warfare. The Omega calculation. Species that master warfare eventually transcend physical combat. They become living weapons. They evolve beyond biology. They become what the Devourers were running from." Gasps filled the hall as the truth emerged. The Devourers weren't the predators. They were the prey. "We didn't hide to protect you from us," Admiral Chen continued. "We hid to prevent the pattern from completing. If we had continued fighting, continued evolving, we would have become something worse than the Devourers, something that consumes not just matter, but reality itself." The display showed a new simulation: evolution path analysis, traditional warfare, energy weapons, dimensional tech, reality manipulation, consciousness weaponization, universal consumption. Professor Galactic stood up, his scales now a deep blue of understanding. "You broke the pattern by choosing not to evolve through combat." "Yes," Chen smiled. "But we didn't stop evolving. We chose a different path." The hall's lights dimmed as she revealed humanity's greatest secret: Project Phoenix' true purpose. Appear to accept ban. Develop non-combat evolution. Create multi-species cooperation network. Prepare for the Ancient One's return. Initiated. Vela's terminal suddenly activated, showing deep space readings. Something was moving between galaxies, something that made the Devourers look like insects. "The Ancient Ones," Chen explained, "are what happens when a species follows the pattern to its end. They've consumed their own galaxies. Now they're coming here." But then she smiled, and it was the smile that had made humanity both terrifying and inspiring. But we didn't spend centuries hiding. We spent centuries preparing. Every species that discovered us brought unique perspectives, new ways of thinking, new ways of evolving. The hologram showed human ships, but they were unlike anything anyone had seen. Hulls grown from living crystal, Centauri technology evolved beyond its origins. Engines that didn't move ships through space, but moved space around ships. Weapons that didn't destroy, but transformed. Shields made of crystallized time. And crews of multiple species, their minds linked not for war, but for creation. We learned to evolve without combat, Chen continued, to advance through cooperation instead of conflict, and we taught everyone who found us to do the same. Suddenly, space itself seemed to shift. Above the Academy, the united fleet of all species began to change. Ships merged, not through technology, but through shared consciousness and purpose. The Ancient Ones evolved through war. Chen's voice carried triumph. We evolved through peace. They became consumers of reality. We became its gardeners. The data crystal displayed its final message. Human evolution final form. Not warriors who destroy. Not predators who consume. But guardians who transform. Protectors who create. Teachers who elevate. And now, we all rise together. The combined fleet glowed with impossible energy. Every ship, every species, every mind united not in combat, but in creation. They weren't just going to fight the Ancient Ones. They were going to show them a new way to exist. The humans didn't prepare us for war, Zax realized, his antennae glowing with shared energy. They prepared us for transcendence. Vela stood, her silver eyes reflecting the light of 1,000,000,000,000 united souls. They taught us all how to break the pattern. The Ancient Ones were coming, but they would find something unprecedented. A galaxy that had evolved not through conquest, but through choice. Not through destruction, but through transformation. Admiral Chen's final words echoed through dimensions. We were never banned from warfare. We were quarantined, so we could become the cure. And now, it's time to heal the universe. The United Fleet blazed with the light of new creation, ready to face not the end of all things, but the beginning of something greater. In the Academy's Great Hall, Zax and Vela watched their data crystal dissolve into pure energy, its purpose fulfilled. The truth wasn't just revealed, it was transforming reality itself. The final battle wouldn't be fought with weapons, but with possibility. Not with destruction, but with creation. Not with fear, but with hope. Humanity's greatest weapon was never their ability to fight. It was their ability to change, to teach, to unite, to transcend. And as the Ancient Ones approach, they would find not a galaxy of prey, but a universe of equals, ready not to end existence, but to transform it. The true war wasn't against any enemy. It was against the very concept of war itself. And humanity had spent centuries preparing everyone to win it. Together.